DA leader Francious Rodgers has finished the party's courtesy visit with the AmaZulu King MisuZulu kaZwelithini in Ulundi. The DA is the fourth political party to seek the King's guidance, blessings and well wishes ahead of next year's elections. Our reporter Ntando Nyandu joins us now. Ntando, good afternoon to you. What's happened there?
Well, good afternoon to you, Stephen, and our viewers at home. We're coming to you live from the old legislature here in Ulundi, where a meeting, a meet and greet and a courtesy visit by the DA in KwaZulu-Natal has just concluded. They had quite a number of issues to table before His Majesty King MisuZulu kaZwelithini, but a pressing issue was that of, a surge in political killings and the killing of, traditional leaders. But right now, to tell us more about what transpired in the meeting, I'm joined by the DA's KZN leader, Mr. Francious Rodgers. Mr. Rodgers, you had a closed session meeting with His Majesty. Did you table the matters that you had promised to go and table, and what was the overall feeling of His Majesty about those pressing issues?
I did indeed. I had a one-on-one with His Majesty, but it was a one-on-one for a particular reason, so I don't really want to divulge what we discussed. I think it was a confidential conversation. I think suffice to say it was really a great interaction before I had a one-on-one with His Majesty. We were very warmly received, and the issues we discussed were issues like the Ingonyama Trust, the delay that's happening at a national level with finalizing that matter. We discussed political killings, the killings of traditional leaders, and also we discussed what I believe is so important, and that's to try and create the royal household and the king to become a sustainable entity in its own right. So you can do that through agricultural commercialization on property that belongs to the king. And he was drawn to that and really excited about that. And he's invited me to join him on oversight on the 13th of December, which I think gives you a clear indication. I think the outcomes were very positive of today's meeting.
But without divulging the confidential contents of your meeting, obviously you come here with, a sore heart, having lost your chief whip in Umngeni. Without divulging much, but on the issue of political killings, what was the overall feeling from the king?
Well, I think the king and I agree on this, that in order for us to address the problem and the scourge of political killings, it's going to be a whole of society approach. The king has a role to play, politicians, leaders have a role to play, society at large, church leaders, all have a role to play. And unless we actually come together and sit down and come up with a strategy to deal with this, and one of the issues we can implement is the Morani Commission recommendations, which have lain fallow for 6 years. So I think that was where His Majesty and myself had consensus about taking that forward.
Coming back to you as the DA leader, you are aware that the Morani Commission report has been gathering dust without any implementations. As the official opposition in KwaZulu-Natal, what have you done to persuade government and those in charge to implement these recommendations? Because it would seem that the scourge of political killings is on a rise, not only political leaders but traditional leaders as well.
Indeed, you're quite right. And I think we as the DA have been driving this issue. Just a few months ago, I wrote to all the political leaders in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and invited them to a dialogue, a roundtable dialogue, to look at the Morani Commission report, to look at the resolutions, and through an independent mediator, chairperson, come up with a way forward. The sad reality is, only one political party actually bothered to respond. So I suppose it's a bit like herding cats, very difficult. But we will nevertheless continue to drive, and that's why we raised it with His Majesty. That's why we raise it with church leaders. That's why I have regular engagements with Lieutenant General Mkunazi of SAPS, because it's a collective effort.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rodgers.
Thank you.
Well, that is the DA leader in KwaZulu-Natal, Francious Rodgers, giving us a sneak preview of what transpired behind those closed doors when he had a closed session meeting with His Majesty King MisuZulu, kaZwelithini, who just left the venue a short while ago. But pressing matters remain that political leaders are being assassinated, traditional leaders are being assassinated, with the latest killing being the incident that happened last night, where the chief whip of the DA in Umngeni municipality, Nhlalayenza Ndlovu, was gunned down brutally, in front of his family. So this puts the spotlight on the issues related to the safety of political leaders ahead of the much anticipated general elections scheduled for next year. But with that, it's back to you in studio.